This is CPE 329, project number 3 for spring 2017. This is the digital multimeter using the MSP 432 ADC.
So we start with a 1.15 DC signal, and we read 1.1 over there, and we're gonna change it now to 2.5 for the max for this waveform generator, and you can see we can read 2.4. Now we're gonna switch to a sine wave, and the sine wave has an offset of 1.39. You can also see the measurement there as we were in DC mode. And we're gonna change it to a 1.5 offset with 500 hertz and 3 volts peak to peak. And now I'm gonna change it to the AC mode. As you can see, it displays everything that it needs to display, and you can see the measurement differences by looking at the peak-to-peak frequency, true RMS, and calc RMS in both screens, and also be displayed as a graph. And now I'm going to change it to a 1 volt peak-to-peak like so, with a 0.5 offset. At 1,000 hertz. And you can see the differences in the measurements and on the console. As a third case, I'm going to change it to a 1 volt peak to peak sine wave with an offset of 2.5 volts. The difference can be seen again in the measurements both in the oscilloscope and on the console. Now we're going to switch to triangle waveform. So triangle with 3 volts peak to peak. An offset of 1.5. At a frequency of 50 hertz. You can see the differences, and as you can tell, once we go this low, the frequency starts being inaccurate compared to all the other cases. Next, we're gonna do a square wave at the 10 hertz frequency with an amplitude of 1.5 of 1 volt peak to peak, and an offset of 1.5. You can see the differences. At this point, at 10 hertz, our code cannot compute the frequency.
You try raising it up until it works.
So if we increase it, it's at 20 hertz and it's getting a little bit better, but not much. Now it is at 50 hertz and it's getting better. It's like, yeah, it's good at this point. And then at 100 or more, it is pretty stable. So now we're gonna go back to sine waves, and we're gonna do a 1.5 offset at 1,000 hertz and a peak to peak of 3. And you can see the measurement differences, measurements here and on the console with the bar graphs. Lastly, we're gonna change to a square wave of frequency, of our best frequency, which should be around 50 hertz or so. Hertz, 3 peak to peak, 1.5 offset. At this point, you can see it hovering around 50, but then sometimes it skips. We can increase it again to have the most stable one, but below 50 doesn't really work. If we go to 100, pretty stable.